Well, welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the news review, and energy analyst, also a flag bearer hopeful of the MPP, Kwejo Nsafwa-Poku, is our guest. Before we get to him, let's just let you know, of course, the segment always supported, brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. If you're a man, they're offering you prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, they're offering you fertility screening gratis, completely free. If you don't know your status, if you don't know what is going on in your reproductive organs, you really ought to take a look. As for the prostate, many people take it for granted before they realize there are issues to deal with. For women nowadays, fibroids and so many things, you need to know your fertility status. No, if you're okay, you're good to go. If there are issues, stem the tide of those right from the onset. And that is why you ought to reach out to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic at any of their branches dotted across the country. Here's where you can locate them. In Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, they are in Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. Back in the Greater Accra region, they are in Tema Community 22. There's also Takrade and Naji State. There's Techim and Hanswa and Siama in Ziba. If you should want to call them, and I think you should do that, the number to call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Leading us to the commencement of the news review. Mr. Poku, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm well. I see you're back home.
Yes, I've been back since last week. When we had the show last week, I was home.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you back. Since I didn't quite catch that.
Sir, please repeat that.
I didn't catch the last statement. You said something. I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said last week I was home. It was the week before last that I was in Kumasi when we had the show.
Oh, right. Well, welcome back. Now, let's start off from the dynamics in your party. You see everything that's going. There's this rumor in the mill, okay? There's this thing going around the rumor mill that the plan is to, apart from the five of you, likely whoever, when going through the screening, emerges when the vote, the superdelegates vote, may be put forward as the ultimate candidate to represent your party against the NDC and the other parties in the 2024 election. What is your reflection on that? If it pans out that they say, you know what, the rest of you should step aside, since this person has emerged with the highest number of votes, let that person go ahead for the sake of unity. How would you feel about that?
Well, Ben, as you said, it's rumor. And rumors are treated with the contempt that it deserves. But
sometimes rumor in these political circles can have some fire with them.
Let me just humor you with the conversation. Like I said, it's rumor, but let me just humor you with the conversation. Look, this party, right, it's a dynamic party. It is guided by constitution. When people say that when you are told or who will tell? There is nobody in this party that will be able to gather 10 strong men like us.
You say the party is guided by the constitution and this and that, yet your party at some point was telling some members of parliament, in fact, in their constituencies, primaries were not to be held because they wanted those people to remain at post, to go uncontested. Is that in your party's constitution?
But you see, when you hear those things, find out that the process take place. You see, the process always takes place. The fact that one person ends up at the end of the process doesn't mean that the process is stopped. We have 2 elections ahead of us. There are 10 people that has filed, and by God's grace, all 10 will go through vetting. I don't see how vetting is going to take out 5 people. It's not possible, right? So all 10 will go through vetting because all 10 of us who are filed are strong standing members of the party. Now, when we go through vetting, there is going to be the August 26 election, which is the super delegate. That is going to happen. There's going to be 5 strong men who would emerge as leaders. Now, bear in mind, the August 26 election, which is the super delegate college, is only made up of not more than 900 people. The November election is made up of 230,000 grassroots support of this party. There is no way, no imagination that somebody will sit somewhere and say that deny the 230,000 grassroots support of this party the chance to choose their own leader. It's not possible. Anybody who thinks they have the power to do that is dreaming. I'm being honest with you.
Interest of the party, in the interest of the party, anything is possible, and you may then be left with the legal option.
My dear, the interest of the party is the grassroots. They are the party, not the few that sit at the top. The party is the 230,000 people. They are the party. Okay, so in their interest, we should let them vote.
If that were to happen, Kojo, let's make tracks on this. If that were to happen, what would be the options that you would trigger? Because, like I'm telling you, it's percolating in political circles, and sometimes we know how this politics goes.
Ben, if what was to happen, I don't get that part.
I'm saying that if after the entire process, going through the super delegates and all of that, some decision was made that this person has emerged the topmost contender. So all the rest of you, let's support this person ahead of election 2024. What would you do?
Okay. Look, Ben, what I'm saying to you is that decision can only be made by the aspirants, not somebody outside that circle. It is us who decide whether we'll do the election or not. If I, Kojo Poku, decide to pull out today, then there's 9 people. If the others decide to pull out, then there is 7 people. Nobody outside the rim of the aspirant can decide who step out. So let's not entertain that conversation. For me, if there is going to be any consensus, if there's going to be any conversation, it will be done among the aspirants, not outside the aspirants. Anybody outside that circle doesn't have a right, doesn't have a locus, doesn't have anything. They can only suggest. It's a suggestion.
How in touch are you with the leadership of the party, of your party, the administrative leadership, I mean?
I am very close to the chairman of the party. I'm very close to the secretary of the party. I'm very close to the people that I need to be close with, but I don't know which leadership you are talking about.
All right. I'll leave it there. Assin North is going down today. And when I say going down, I basically mean the election is taking place today. It is D-Day. And there's a lot of interest there. The police presence is huge. About 93 polling centers or stations with over 3,000 police officers. That's quite a number. Some people have said it's also an attempt to skew things a certain way or to create or to sow the seed of fear in some people. The IGP was there yesterday. Now, the election is happening today. We've already interacted on the AM News. We interacted with some of the people who would likely vote, expressing certain sentiments. But for you, what are your expectations in Assin North? It's a swing constituency, but the NDC has its grasp on it. What's your reading?
I'm happy you put the word swing. You know, not a lot of groundwork. We learned from our mistakes in 2020. We've realized the areas and communities that we did not do well. For the last 3 weeks, there's been more than enough boots on the ground to basically make sure that we fine-tune all those areas that we didn't do well the last time. And like you said, it will swing this way this time. The MPP will take the seat. I know it's a tough battle that we are fighting, but we are very, very hopeful that we've been able to do enough work in the last 3 weeks to be able to take that seat today.
In 6.5 years, the people are lamenting the situation. This will be my final bit on this, and then we'll get into the papers. In 6.5 years, the people are lamenting the underdevelopment, not because look at it, you don't have a parliamentary candidate there, fine, but you have a DCE or an MCE in that area. They are actually the true agents of development, not the parliamentarian. Now, some have also said that while James Jachikwason did quite a bit there, his work has been hobbled by the court cases and the back and forth. So tell me, what sort of development now would the MPP be bringing? You've had 6.5 years to do that. The people don't seem to agree.
Well, my dear, this developmental issue is not only peculiar to only one constituency. It's a 275 constituency problem. We have limited resources that has to go around the country. The party and Nanado's-led government is doing its best to basically bring to Ghanaians the development that they deserve. We are not resting on our laurels. We're basically trying our best as a government, has a mandate till 2024. Whatever is due them, they will get it. I have always said that the DCs and the MCs in some parts of the country are not doing their best. And that has got nothing to do with appointing authority. I think when you're appointed as an MC and as a DCE, you have your internally generated fund as the IGF, you have the common fund, and you have ways to basically make sure that the people in your community are basically well looked after and then their problems addressed. Not all of them are living up to that expectation, admitted. But it doesn't mean that it's the fault of anybody. It's the fault of those people that are put in place. And that is why I have always made local government the foundation of my message, that we need to change the way local governments are run. So look, we are doing best. We are doing our best. We are doing well. I think that going forward, we will learn from the mistakes. We have boots on the ground. We've listened to the people. We know what has happened is wrong, and going forward, we will try and do our best. But look, development is a 275 constituency problem. It's not just one constituency problem.
Well, let's get into the papers now. We'll start with the Daily Graphic. Ghana will achieve debt sustainability. Chinese envoy says so. Interesting. Now, others have to tell us when we will achieve debt sustainability, or if we shall do that. Botswana delegation visits Jospon Group's waste treatment plants. Speaker attacks politics of monetization. $7 million food security projects launched. Special supplement on Eid al-Adha, and that is inside. But then Assin North By-Election Today. Police deploy drones to complement security measures. EC prepares against rainfall. So let's get into the details. The Ghana Police Service will deploy drones at conflict-prone areas in the Assin North constituency to capture situations of conflict and violence in real time during today's by-election. Also, absolutely no weapon will be allowed at the polling stations in an election which would be supervised strictly by regular police personnel. These are part of security measures the Ghana Police Service has taken to ensure a violence-free election. They are part of the ground rules established for the by-election during a meeting at Assin Breku yesterday with leaders of the political parties and the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. Now, security in the constituency has been beefed up extremely, with thousands of police personnel deployed to the area to ensure today's by-election is peaceful. Addressing the media personnel shortly after the meeting, Dr. Dampare explained that no motorbikes would be allowed at polling stations. Again, voters would not be allowed to take mobile phones into the voting booths. You know, there's been this habit of capturing your vote with a camera or a phone and all of that. Again, the IGP indicated that the meeting agreed that the party paraphernalia were also not allowed at the polling centers. Of course, this from time immemorial, it has been the case that you shouldn't come to a polling station or around or its environs with a branded political party shirt or paraphernalia. Well, there's also this bit. Okofo Berima urged and Okofo Chum Berima, by the way, the traditional authorities there, urged the security personnel to ensure that there was a conducive environment to allow constituents to exercise their franchise. And there's more, but the EC, the Central Regional Director of the EC, Gladys Pinkra, told the Daily Graphic the polling stations were located mostly in schools, which meant that the rain would not affect voting at these centers. Any quick thoughts on these arrangements and the heavy police presence in Assin?
Well, it's a good thing. I like the bit where nobody's allowed phones into the boothing area. I think we should make that the law, and we should make that the norm in this country, that we don't allow phones to be taken into voting booths. It's creating a bit of a problem. Go and vote and show me who you voted for. It takes away the fundamentals of voting. Voting is supposed to be a secret ballot. So I think it should be a norm that no phones should be allowed in anywhere going forward. No type of voting should have anybody take phones into voting booth. I think if we can do that, it will help with our democracy. Look, the police presence is very important. We've gotten news of some pockets of people trying to create disturbances today. I hope it doesn't happen. I think that we should just have people express who they want their MP to be. There's no need for violence. The police have basically be in the forefront by deploying drones, as you have mentioned. All these are good news. My only challenge is that we need to basically have intelligence. One of the things that I think in this country we are not basically being on the forefront of is intelligence. We should be able to have enough intelligence on the ground to weed out these problems before it even occurs. So I think, look, they are doing well, and we hope we will have a very vibrant, free and fair election today.
Let's get to page 16 very quickly. Speaker attacks politics of monetization. Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, has bemoaned the high level of monetization of politics in our country. He explained that such was the situation that some writers had christened Ghana's democracy moneycracy. Conscience is on sale, he is quoted to have said. Truth and honesty are scarce commodities. Elections have been reduced to a farce, open auctions where the highest bidder wins. Now, speaking in an interview with the Daily Graphic, Mr. Bagman said there was pervasive disregard for the law and order with impunity. Vigilantism, gangsterism, and the use of hoodlums are gradually becoming a norm of competitive politics. And he's also quoted to have said, like I mentioned, conscience is on sale, truth and honesty are scarce commodities, elections have been reduced to a farce, open auctions where the highest bidder wins. Two things come to mind. The last, the Congress of the NDC, where we saw that lady, I've forgotten in which constituency, the primaries, and how she was doling out money from her vehicle. She says she found the money in her vehicle. Twice she did that. The most recent one in Assin North, Chairman Wuntumi of the MPP, dishing his hands into his batakari and bringing out wads of money and distributing them. I mean, I interacted with Henry Nanabuache, the national organizer of your party, and he felt, oh, that was, and TNT and this, and those things are allowed. Well, they boil down to the very same things we're talking about. I don't know what your reading is on that. Very quickly, Kojo.
Well, my brother, you mentioned the lady that was throwing money from the car. What happened to her? Have you guys followed up? Has anybody followed up what happened?
I know she had some invitation. Nothing. I don't know whether it was from the OSP, exactly. if memory serves.
No, look, nothing happened. We treat these things with the contempt that it deserves.
Or maybe the contempt it doesn't deserve. Maybe rather the contempt it doesn't deserve. That's how we treat them.
Well, the contempt it doesn't deserve, right? Thank you for that. Yeah, the contempt it doesn't deserve. But basically, nothing happens after that, okay? The point is the speaker who sits at the where laws are made, the MPs who are affected 100% by these monetization of our politics, so to speak, as the speaker puts it out there, and they don't want to do anything about it. So who will do something about it? That's the bit I'm confused. The guy who has the guy who has the handle to do something about what's going on is complaining. The MPs are complaining. So who does something about it? Because that's the bit I get confused. If the speaker feels strongly about it, and I'm sure the MPs in the House of Parliament feel strongly about it, they should sit and let's find a way to resolve this problem. Because it is dire, it is bad. Because as we are about to enter this season of basically us, the presidential aspirants going out there, there are people who are blatantly asking you for this or that. And if you don't, then they get upset, okay? Because they feel entitled. They feel that, well, that's what everybody is doing, okay? But like I said, I don't have that money to give. But the point is, some people are giving it. The MPs are being asked that, oh, if you want to be an MP in this area, each delegate will ask you for this or that one. If you don't have, don't come. Okay? And people who are good materials are being deterred from contesting some of these things because there is a seemingly price or there's a perceived price on some of these seats. Is that the right way to go? It's not. So the speaker who is speaking, the members of parliament, they should do something about it because they make the laws of this land. If they don't, then we should just basically move on.
All right, let's get into some other stories now. And Ghana will achieve debt sustainability, Chinese envoy. The Chinese government has given an assurance that it will work with its Ghanaian counterpart to ensure that Ghana achieves debt sustainability. China said it remained Ghana's biggest trading partner and major investment source and would therefore join hands to deliver tangible benefits to the people of Ghana. I find it interesting when foreign powers tell us how things will go within our own borders, when we ourselves cannot determine. Sometimes we must feed on data from
I think what he's trying
the
to
IMF and the World Bank. Let me just make my point, Kojo. So I'm just saying that Ghana will achieve debt sustainability. It is not in the mouth of the Chinese or the Americans or the British or whoever to tell us that. We've become so saddled with debt and influence that we cannot even speak for ourselves in a certain light. And I find that problematic. Go ahead, Kojo.
But your debt is with them. I mean, your debt is not with yourself. The reason they are the one to speak is that your debt is with them. So your debt is China is one of the biggest indebtors.
Our debt may be with them, but it is how we manage that debt that determines sustainability. Well, it is not they who will work to determine the sustainability.
That is a different conversation. No, debt sustainability is to do with debt restructuring. And debt restructuring is with the person you owe. So that is why the Chinese envoy is telling everybody that, yes, China will work with you to basically make sure that the debt is restructured and you would attain debt sustainability. My point and my problem is going forward, what are the situations put in place by them to make sure that we don't get back there? Because obviously, you keep hearing this thing, oh, we'll go back to the capital market very soon. Oh, we'll go back to borrowing very soon. Oh, we are improving. We are back on track. So the mindset in the Ministry of Finance, I have seen a document which actually talks about how quickly we'll be going back to the debt markets, okay? So it tells you that the focus is that we need to borrow to improve the nation, which for me, I disagree. I think we need to save. We need to put prudent measures on the ground to reverse the huge expenditure that we have. Because the problem in Ghana is the big expenditure gap as compared to revenue, which has been the situation that led us to where we are. So if we are able to put a draw on our expenditure, which is our appetite for all these huge gargantuan projects. So the Chinese have a role to play in your debt sustainability. That's why they are talking about it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I do not say that they do not have a role to play. I'm just saying that many a time we have external forces telling us how things will go when they may pull the purse strings, but we do the management. And if we get the management right, that is when we'll achieve debt sustainability. But let's breeze through these stories. House to debate anti-gay bill. 5 ministers respond to questions. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, has directed the Business Committee of the House to schedule a debate on the promotion of proper sexual human rights and Ghanaian family values bill 2021 for either today or Thursday. The bill was presented to Parliament on March the 31st, 2023 by the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. We all know the details, and 5 ministers are to appear. They are the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayoko Boche, Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Brian Echampo, Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and Minister of Roads and Highways, Kwesi Amwako Atta as well. And that is that for the Daily Graphic. Maybe quick thoughts on that one, and then I'll bring in 2 stories from the Daily Guide and the Graphic Business.
Well, look, I have always said that those laws and those bills are long overdue. In terms of the old enactments that we had, our old constitution, our acts of parliament and all that, we don't have something that deals properly and puts the new development in the world order in context. I think that every law has to be a breathing being. So as the world changes around us, we need to basically enact law that help us keep up with those things. Look, I don't think in Ghana, I don't think anybody has gone around lynching, insulting, or trying to do harm to somebody who they feel belongs to the LGBTQ community. We don't do that in this country, okay? Since I was a kid, we have known Kojo Besia ever since, okay? And nobody does anything to them. Nobody beats them, but it's all become as if that we are hostile towards that community. We are not. You know, they in the West, there were times that they would beat, jail, and lynch somebody in that community. We have always lived with those people in our community. So I find it very strange that all of a sudden we are being lectured to as a nation as if we are hostile to people in that community.
Should this bill be passed? There have been some alterations. Should it be passed? Are you pushing for the bill to be passed into law?
Oh, if the members of parliament, deem it fit that is a bill that needs to be passed, yes, it should be passed. They are our people representatives.
If you were
And
a
I
member
think
of parliament, would you vote for the bill?
yes, I will vote for the bill. I haven't read it, but I have to read it and vote for it. Because I think, like I said earlier, we need to basically keep up pace with the evolving world around us. I am 100% not for people blatantly pushing certain things in our face. And I think that should stop. Ghana is a peaceful country, and we don't intend to basically go the route just because certain people think that they want to do certain things. We are not hostile to that community.
Right.
So nobody should shove certain things down our throat. That's my position on these things.
On the back page, petroleum gas tanker drivers declare strike over poor roads. Yesterday, we had an interaction with their head. Dabwase drowning tragedy, third body retrieved. But then these two stories I want you to focus on. I'll take a look at the headlines from these newspapers, but many of those stories we've already seen. The Daily Guide, D-Day at Assin North, all set for Collins Dauda others trial. Organized labor declares strike July 10. But this story I want to focus on. Start cash movement with armored cars. Bank of Ghana orders. That story is on page 6 of the Daily Guide. Let me take a look at it. So, there it is. In response to the recent armed robberies during cash movements, the Bank of Ghana has issued a directive to all banks in the country to immediately start using armored plated bullion vans for cash transportation. The directive carries a warning that failure to comply will result in severe sanctions. Now, the Bank of Ghana's directive comes just days after a tragic incident in which a police officer, Corporal Callistus Amwa, was killed by armed robbers in the suburb of Ablekuma in Accra. The officer was shot multiple times at close range, and the robbers made away with his gun and an undisclosed sum of money. That is the first story. The second one, it's in the graphic business. IPPs demand 30% of $1.4 billion debt to keep lights on, kick against debt restructuring. And even before government presents a formal proposal to independent power producers on how it intends to restructure a $1.4 billion debt, in a second round of domestic debt rationalization, the group of 6 say any debt restructuring decision or discussion, quote, is off the table. Consequently, the IPPs have made a demand for the government to immediately pay 30% of the debt. That amounts to about 450 million, 420 million thereabouts of the debt, noting that the failure to do so would mean they can't guarantee power supplies beyond June the 30th, 2023. That's just about 3 days away. Now, this stance by the IPPs have sparked fears of an impending load-shedding exercise and also threatened government's objectives of reforming the energy sector under the Extended Credit Facility Program with the International Monetary Fund. What is your take on this, especially as recently we were talking about Dumso being able to see a resurgence? Quick reflections on these two stories.
Well, where I sit as somebody who knows the in and out of the energy sector, I have always said that I honestly don't think that the IPPs are going to pull the plug. Though it's unfair that they are being treated the way they are being treated, but the law, the agreement which they signed makes it difficult for them to pull the plug. If they pull the plug, and then it benefits the government if they pull the plug. And I'll explain why in a minute. Look, in the power purchase agreement, all the IPPs are given a guarantee. On that guarantee is what you call on when there is a level of indebtedness. Now, the minute you draw on that guarantee, it leads to the termination of your PPA. Now, bear in mind, the power purchase agreement, which is the PPA that all these IPP have, has what you call the take and pay. Okay? Take or pay. Has the take or pay. Government wants to renegotiate these agreements and make it take and pay. So they want to go away from the take or pay to take and pay, which means that you have the plant in this country. You have an agreement which you are trying to protect. If government owes you and you think that by virtue of government owing you, you are going to call on the guarantee and as a result shut your plant and not produce power, that's fine. That's your right. But then what happens next? After government has now paid you your money, you can't let the plant sit there. You might want another agreement to operate. And at that point, government will not give you your old agreement back. You will now be given a different agreement. So it is not in their interest to threaten. It's not in their interest to say that they are going to shut the lights off. because there are legal ramifications if they decide to do that, because they have an agreement which obliges them to produce power to the country. There is a process by which they have to go through to shut out the lights. And that means they have to call on a guarantee. And by calling on a guarantee leads to the abrogation of, they basically terminate the PPA and as a result, shut the light off. Now, let me address the problem. It's unfair that
Let's ask you this. Where we are now on the IPPs, how bad is our situation? How bad is it?
It's very bad. It's very bad because they need to be paid. They need liquidity. You can't run a business without having the liquidity that you deserve. And they have commitment to financial institutions that they have to pay. So it is bad, and it is a situation that needs to be addressed with. I have advised ECG to go for a bullet payment of about $500 million, pay them off, and then restructure the balance. But look, that is up to the MD and ECG if they want to basically take that advice, okay? It is not, ECG keeps saying that, Ministry of Finance, government. No, you are a private institution. Though you are owned by government, you are a state-owned enterprise. It's your organization. Your board can make that decision. Right. You want to go out there and borrow about $500 million and basically pay off your indebtedness. It's not always about running to the Ministry of Finance and always running to the Jubilee House for support. Because as we all know, the Ministry of Finance don't have the money. Okay.
On the second point, very quickly, we have to go. The bullion vans, very quickly.
Well, the bullion vans, I think the banks are just happy to make profits and not invest in in what their logistics are.
Okay.
The bullion vans are expensive. With armor plates are expensive, but that doesn't take away the fact that the banks makes a lot of money. Okay, so the banks can afford to buy these armor-plated bullion vans. In Nigeria, they have them. All these Nigerian banks in Ghana come into Ghana and they use these pickups to transport money, which is wrong. So the bank should invest in their logistics. So they should buy those armor-plated bullion vans.
All right. Thank you very much, Kojo Poku. But just to be fair, if you say these Nigerian banks, they come here and they do that, there are Ghanaian established banks too that have been doing same. So let's be fair to all quarters, not singling out just the Nigerians.
I'm saying that the practice in Nigeria for them, the UBAs and the Zenith, they use armor-plated bullion vans
there. Right.
Yeah. So when you came to Nigeria, you continue that practice. That's the point I'm making.
All right, Kojo. Thank you so much, and we wish you the very best of the day. Energy analyst Kojo Nsafwa Poku, also a flag bearer hopeful of the NPP. He was our guest. The segment was brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Here's where you can locate them. At Accra Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, there's Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Siama and Zema. If you'd like to reach them, these are the numbers to call: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of sports. Up next, do stay.